Muitas vezes eu fujo do assunto da arquitetura e procuro levar para o lado político, o lado humano, e dizer que a arquitetura, que a vida é muito mais importante que a arquitetura.
What if the most rigid material in architecture could create the most fluid forms? In the 20th century, modern architecture was dominated by straight lines, rational planning, and strict geometry. Buildings were designed as machines, efficient, logical, and functional. But one architect challenged this idea. That architect was Oscar Niemeyer, whose visionary use of concrete reshaped the language of modern architecture and transformed how we imagine space today. Oscar Niemeyer was born in 1907 in Rio de Janeiro, a city defined by dramatic mountains, sweeping coastlines, and flowing natural landscapes. These natural curves would later inspire his architectural philosophy. He studied architecture at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, where he encountered the emerging ideas of modern architecture. Early in the career, he worked with the influential architect Le Corbusier, one of the pioneers of modernist design. While modernism emphasized functionality and rational planning, Niemeyer believed architecture should go beyond logic. He famously said that he was not attracted to straight lines or rigid angles, but to the curves found in mountains, rivers, clouds, and the human body. Niemeyer's first major architectural breakthrough came with the Bamboula Modern Ensemble in Belo Horizonte in the early 1940s. The complex included several recreational buildings, but the most famous was the Church of St. Francis of Assisi. Here, Niemeyer used reinforced concrete to create sweeping curves and flowing forms that felt almost sculptural. At a time when most modern buildings were rigid and rectangular, Bamboula introduced a new architectural language, one where structure and art blended together. This project marked the moment when Niemeyer began to establish his unique identity as an architect. Niemeyer's life and work were also shaped by his strong political convictions. He was a committed member of the Brazilian Communist Party and believed deeply in social equality and collective progress. For Niemeyer, architecture was not only about aesthetics, it was also about society. During Brazil's military dictatorship in the 1960s, his political beliefs forced him into exile. Despite these challenges, Niemeyer continued to design architecture that expressed openness, monumentality, and civic identity. In the late 1950s, Brazil undertook one of the most ambitious architectural projects in history, the creation of a new capital city called Brasília. The city was planned by urban designer Lúcio Costa, while Niemeyer designed many of its most iconic buildings. Among these was the striking Cathedral of Brasília, where 16 curved concrete columns rise dramatically toward the sky. Another landmark was the National Congress of Brazil, a powerful composition of towers and domes that became a symbol of Brazil's modern identity. Through these buildings, Niemeyer demonstrated how architecture could shape not only cities but also national identity. Throughout his career, Niemeyer worked primarily with reinforced concrete, a material strongly associated with brutalism. However, his interpretation of concrete was very different from the heavy and rigid forms often seen in ruralist architecture. Instead, Niemeyer transformed concrete into fluid sculptural structures defined by sweeping curves and dramatic spatial gestures. By the time of his death in 2012, at the age of 104, Oscar Niemeyer had designed more than 600 buildings across the world. His work proved that architecture could be both monumental and poetic. Through concrete, curves, and imagination, he reshaped modern architecture, showing that even the most rigid material could express freedom.